In the previous lesson, we saw that reaction reveals position. Now we examine one reaction that quietly rearranges power: blame. Most people believe blame is about fairness, about truth, about correcting what went wrong. That belief feels stable, it feels justified, but it hides something. Blame does not only describe a mistake, it introduces guilt, and guilt moves behavior. So here is the essential question for this lesson. Is blame about solving the problem or shifting power? Listen carefully, because once you see the mechanism, you start recognizing it everywhere. Guilt is not reflective, it is urgent. When someone feels guilty, their system does not ask whether the accusation is accurate. It asks how to remove the pressure. Guilt feels like exposure, like loss of standing, like being seen as insufficient. And people will act quickly to stop that feeling. They apologize, they over-explain, they offer more than necessary. They try to repair the image that feels damaged. This reaction often happens before thought. That is why guilt is powerful. It pushes action before logic stabilizes the situation. Now pay attention to how blame enters a room. It rarely shouts. It rarely sounds dramatic. It sounds controlled. You didn't think about me. You embarrassed me. After everything I've done, I expected more from you. These sentences may contain truth. That is not the main issue. The structure is the issue. The sentence does not only describe behavior, it assigns responsibility for someone else's emotional state. It suggests that someone failed not only in action, but in character. And once identity is touched, the conversation changes direction. What happens next is predictable. The person who feels guilty shifts into defense. They begin explaining intentions. They justify choices. They apologize too quickly. They try to prove they are not careless, not selfish, not incompetent. And the moment someone begins proving, position shifts. Because now the interaction is no longer about improving the outcome, it is about restoring status. The discussion becomes a quiet trial. One person defines the fault. The other person attempts to recover from it. Consider a simple contrast at work. Two employees hear the same statement: "You dropped the ball." The first reacts immediately. They apologize repeatedly. They send long follow-up messages. They over-communicate. They stay late. They try to erase the mistake completely. The second employee pauses and asks one direct question: what specifically needs to change next time? Same accusation, different internal response. One accepts the guilt frame and lowers position without noticing. The other refuses the frame and keeps attention on the result. The difference is not personality, it is control over identity pressure. This mechanism does not stay inside workplaces. In dating, it appears as, "If you cared, you would." In couples, it sounds like, "You never prioritize me." In families, it becomes, "After all I sacrificed." In friendships, it sounds like, "I guess I don't matter." In classrooms, it can sound like, "I expected better from you." Different environments, same structure. Guilt creates correction, and the person who can trigger guilt consistently often directs behavior without raising their voice. Here is what makes this destabilizing. Blame often hides behind words like accountability, honesty, maturity, communication. It sounds responsible. It sounds ethical. But the emotional effect reveals the shift. If someone leaves the conversation feeling smaller, pressured, or eager to prove their worth, the interaction was not neutral. It was a hierarchy adjustment. And hierarchy adjustments rarely announce themselves directly. They happen through identity. This does not mean all blame is manipulation. Sometimes problems must be named. Sometimes responsibility must be clarified. But notice the difference. Clarifying responsibility focuses on behavior and outcome. Identity pressure focuses on character and worth. One asks, "What needs to change?" The other implies, "Something is wrong with you." That difference determines whether a conversation strengthens position or weakens it. Now return to the essential question. Is blame about solving the problem or shifting power? The next time blame appears, do not rush to defend or agree. Instead, observe the structure. Who defines the fault? Who begins proving? Who changes tone? Who compensates? Who restores their image? You do not need to decide whether the accusation is correct. Watch what it moves. Because once you recognize how guilt shifts position, you start noticing how often power changes hands without being named. And that realization is not comfortable. It exposes how easily identity pressure directs behavior.